Hey guys, it's Rezael back at Card 5 Vanguard deck profiles. If you guys enjoyed, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and sorry. This time we are covering DC set 8 for Rezael. So Rezael Vita got some nice support in DC set 7, but I didn't use any of it because I didn't really like the cards back then, and one of the cards I am using now, followed by a really great card from DC set 8 with our Mythic of Miracles. So let's get this one started, shall we, and see what we have today. First up today, we have our Energy Generator. It's our Ride Deck Crest. You may have Ride Deck Crest in your Ride Deck. Auto Ride Deck, when you would ride, put this card into your Crest zone, and if you went second, you get to Energy Charge 3, Continuous, make to 10 Energy, and auto begin your Ride Phase, Energy Charge 3, and add once per turn, Energy by 7, draw a card. Arm pretty solid. Every single turn, you get a free 3 Energy. If you went second, you get an extra 3 on top of that, and if at one point you end up having 7 or more Energy, you can get rid of 7 of them to end up getting a free hand card. That's pretty solid. Unfortunately, in this deck, we do have Energy Blaster, so you will pretty much never use that skill to Energy Blast 7, but on the bright side, the cards that do use Energy actually use Energy to draw, so no matter what, you'll be using the draw skill, whether you're using it from the Energy Generator or from the cards that actually cost Energy, so it's a nice card to have in the Ride Deck as a Ride Deck Crest for alternate cost. As for our starter, that is Wings of Aspiration Soel. Grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base, auto and road upon for second draw card. Standard starter, nothing special, free draw if you go second. You make this any starter you want. I chose to make it Soel because it's the canonical starter of Rezael, so obviously it's going to be a one of in the Ride Deck for me. Next up, we have our Over Trigger and Light Dragon Deity of Honors, Noah. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power. You will have Over Trigger in your deck. Revealed as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one units, give it plus 1 million for the turn, and revealed it during a jet check, activate its adjust effect with you until end of the turn. You can also perform drive checks for the battle as your rear guards attack. Arm pretty solid because whether you drive check this or damage check this, someone's getting a million and you do end up getting a draw. But if you drove check it for the turn, you can also get drive checks for your rear guards. Now that ability is really good, especially because it basically makes Gabwellius your finisher in the deck free for his skill. But also, like, at any point in the game where you're aggroing down your opponent, which depending on what your hand looks like can be as early as literally your first turn of the game, depending if you went first or second, is pretty solid because you can try to get your hand cards back up while you aggro down your opponent and force them to guard a lot while your hand actually increases. And the last time that I used this, actually last time I used this deck in general, I actually pulled off the over on my first grade 3 turn, and while I didn't win, a very certain play I did basically got me a hell lot of hand cards. So it's a nice card to have in the deck. You can make this the Dark Over trigger for healing and calling, or Volna for consistent multi-attacking, but I prefer Armor to Noah because I like running the Nation Over triggers. As for our normal triggers, we have 3 copies of Protection Magic Proby, Grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k base, continues guard circle, if your opponent's vanguards are grade 3 guard at 5,000 to shield. So Proby is a 10k shield and a draw trigger, so whenever it's damage checked, it allows you to increase your hand. You can make this a front trigger if you want to have more numbers to your front row instead and still have a round of good guarding power, because you can make it Alpac who have a 20k base shield. But for Proby to help try to increase my hand, especially because my hand tends to end up being a lot of grade 3s for some reason, like I will either draw no grade 3s throughout the game or my hand will be all grade 3s at some point throughout that game. I don't know why, but 3 copies of Proby, very solid card to have, and again, you can make this really either a draw or a front. I just prefer the draw for hand cards. As for our normal triggers though, obviously being a Rezael deck, we have a total of 8 crits, 4 copies of Chevalmia, grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k base. You can make this any crit you want. I chose to make it Chevalmia because, like Soel, it is quote-unquote the canonical critical trigger of Rezael because it came in the same start deck that Sarv also had, and all the triggers and starters in that deck were respectively their faded one's canonical cards, so Chevalmia is the quote-unquote canonical crit of Rezael. As for 4 copies of Blade Feather Dragon, following it up, grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 4k base, critical trigger, auto rear guard, and then by that it boosted, shovel to soul, and give a unique 2k on your board for the turn. That 2k in one very specific situation does make the difference, of which I have encountered at least once recently, but most of the time is really here just to get a critical trigger to soul. That way you can soul blast it out via one of your soul blast costs, and then when you use Rezael's divine skill, you can shuffle it back into the deck if you don't want a hard guard with Blade Feather, or if you just want to get extra soul for some of your skills because you don't want to end up soul blasting out Rezael's. Not a bad grade 0 at all. You can afford to make this a vanilla crit. I just use it as this critical trigger just in case, so I have more reasons to soul blast crits, but either way, it's a total of 8 crit for pressure, 3 draws for keeping up guard power, and obviously 4 heals of Bringer of Distant Sounds Aranas. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k base. You make this any heal you want. I just make it Aranas because same thing with Chevalmia and Soel came out in Sarvalso start deck, therefore it's the canonical trigger of Rezael. But again, this can be any who you want. I just chose to make it Arnas for that reason, so 4 heals. Moving on to our normal units, starting off with 3 copies of our grade 1 Guragon. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, continues rear guard or guard circle. If your vanguards are grade 3 or greater Rezael, this unit gets 5,000 power and 5k shield, active on both players' turns. So it's a 10k shield and a 13k base once you're at grade 3. That's really good. After seeing Akina's most recent match, I do kind of want to try out the dragon that detects the top card, but I'm not going to because that extra 5k shield has saved me a lot in a lot of matches. Not to mention the fact that I will always like hard call Guragon, and that like extra 5k power that he gets throughout the game has been in some situations like the reason I won, because it domino effect into my opponent always having to guard 5k more for each attacks. So I like having Guragon in here for the extra shield for when I do keep him in my hand, and for the extra power when he ends up on board board, either via superior call and via Rezael, or just hard call him in the early game. He stays out long enough for that ability to go off. Either way, very solid card to have in the deck as a 3-0, but if you want to replace with a different Keter Sanctuary Guard one, I do recommend with something that can like deck stack, which in that case would be the dragon that's on place. Check the top card of your deck that Akina used in the most recent episode. Either way though, whatever you put in this slot would be a 3-0 for me. As for our next grade 1, 3 copies of a card that I will either use throughout the game or I won't use at all outside of a 13k beat stick, and that is Gragon. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, continues rearguard circle. If your unit was placed by the ability of your Vanguard with Divine Skill this turn, this unit gets auto rearguard and then about to boosted, retire, and counter charge 1, and it'll get 5,000 power. So it's a 13k base the second anything is superior call via Rezael, which is great, and then at the end of the battle that it boosted, you could get a counter charge out of it. So in case you're using all your CBers in the early game, such as Rezael, Nobia, Gabwellius for some reason, then in that case, if you think you're going to need CB to do it again on the next turn, you can use Gragon to recycle. Otherwise, you're typically only using it as a 13k booster, but if you still think you're going to need that CB for next turn, you can retire it to counter charge 1 to make sure you can go all out on the following turn. Either way, very solid grade 1 to have, and because this deck can obviously call back from drop zone, it retiring itself isn't much of a problem at all. In fact, its ability will still trigger even if it's the one called back by Rezael's ability, so being a 13k and being a resource management card makes it a good 3-0 for me. As for our next grade 1, 3 copies of our one that came out in DZ set 7, Knight of Severe Spear Savelius. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto when placed on rearguard circle by the ability of your grade 3 grade Vanguard Rezael in the card name. By soul blasting 1, your entire firmware gets 5,000 power for the turn. That's pretty solid. This deck does have an excess of soul unless you randomly run into just all your soul into becoming Rezaels, which is a rare occurrence until you get to the late game. But being able to give your front row basically half persona right is good, especially because it's called by the Vanguard's ability. So every attack after your Vanguard, including the Vanguard attack itself, will always have that 5k plus. And then auto rear guard at the end of battle that it boosted, if this unit was placed on rear guard by the ability of your grade 3 grade Vanguard Rezael on the card name, bind this card to draw a card. So it does get rid of itself from the board so your opponent can't touch it, and it also gets you a hand card to replace it. All around, it is a really great grade 1. My one gripe with this card is that both of its skills require it to be called by the Vanguard's ability, meaning it prevents you from having other targets. So when you're on, it's not really much of a problem on Vita, because Vita you call 3 units at once per its skill, but on OG Rezael you only get 2 choices, and well, you don't really want to call Savelius unless you have to, because your 2 other choices would probably be multi-tap. If your opponent pulled defensives, then there you go. Either way though, very solid, grade 1 to have, get you 5k to your front row, does end up getting you hand cards for free, and it's loopable via Rezael, with the only real downside from it is that it forces you to pick this as one of Rezael's superior call targets, but still not a bad grade 1 for that reason, so it's a good 3-0 for me. Moving on to our PGs, we're on 4 copies of Bringer of Protection Keflon, grade 1 boost, 0 shield, 6k base, continuous Sentinel, you have 4 Sentinels in deck and also put on guard circle, choose your units and cannot be hit to the battle. If your hand has 2 more cards, you choose a card from hand and discard it. Standard PG, nothing to specify it, but that means if there's only 1 or cards in your hand placed on guard circle, you don't have to discard. Great, because that needs to be super aggressive in the early game, and then when your opponent does eventually counterattack you, you can throw down Keflon, give them the middle finger, and you'll be good to go. All around, it's a very solid PG to have. You can make the PG this, or Aegis-Meyer Dragon, or Paladinium Zeal Dragon, because they have the same effect as Keflon, but just to make it Keflon because it came out close to the time of Rezael's release. As for our last grade 1 in the deck, it's a 1 of in the red deck, and on the main deck, a Patrol of Gus Ventesta, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto and rode upon by Knight of Great Advance Senior, call to rearguard circle and soul charge 1, and continues rearguard circle during your turn of your Vanguard to grade 3 or greater Rezael, gets 2,000 power. So cool, it's a 10k base once you hit a grade 3 Rezael, and he gets you a soul and calls itself out, so you can be super aggressive when you're on a Senior, which means if you went first, well, you can bully your opponent down with an 8k rearguard, and if you went second, well, you call this behind Vanguard circle, which isn't 100% ideal, but you call it behind Vanguard circle, you call Gragon / Gargon to the other side columns, then you call 2 Nobias in front of them / Nilberis, and then you bully down your opponent with a bunch of rear guards. Aron Ventesta is really great for pretty much initiating a board presence attack and just being a constant 10k base, but once you use Rezael's skill, it's pretty much one of the units you will always call over, which is why you want to call it to the side column. But again, if you call it behind Vanguard, so at the end of the roll, because at least the Vanguard's getting a 10k booster out of it, so solid 1 of in the right deck, none in the main deck. On to our grade 2s, we have 4 copies of Knight of Gentle Beauty Nobia, grade 2 set 5k shield, 10k base, auto she's placed on rearguard circle. If you have a grade 3 grade Vanguard Rezael in the card name, by counter blasting 1, you can check the top 3 cards of your deck, shield to 1 grade 3 list card from among them, call to rearguard circle, and bot deck the rest. However, if it's your battle phase, you can reveal and put it to your hand instead of calling it. Arm pretty solid because she can't unfortunately initiate mode attacking on her own in the battle phase, but she can be placed on rear guard from anywhere by any means, whether it's by her own ability, a Sensior's ability, or Rezael's ability, because as long as your Vanguard is the Rezael, she can either get you an extra rear guard to board from the top 3, or she can get you a hand card such as a PG, or maybe even a trigger that you can use defensively during your opponent's next turn when you need guard power. All of that makes for a very solid ability, even if she does eat into the CB, because we do have counter chargers like Gragon to help mitigate with her. And then her second skill is Auto Rear Guard. When she attacks into a grade 3 or greater unit, whether it's a Vanguard or a Rear Guard, if your Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater Rezael, you can Soul Blast one and she'll get 10,000 power for the battle. That's a pretty solid ability overall, because that means she'll be swinging for a 20k when she's swinging into a grade 3, which is very helpful because she also Soul Blast, which can eat into a soul problem with the deck, but the cards you Soul Blast can be cards you need to get into drop zone to revive with Rezael's skill either that same turn or the next turn. Say, for example, a Nobia ends in soul via Ventessa Soul Charge. Well, you can Soul Blast out Nobia, or a Nilberis, or your Richthofen over here, or Gabwellius, or literally anything you want in drop zone for superior call, you can use Nobia to help set that up. She makes for a very solid grade 2 because she can add cards from your deck into your hand and help deck thin, even if she does send stuff to bottom. And not to mention the fact that she can help set up your drop zone with her own skill while also adding more numbers, making her all around a very solid grade 2 to have in the deck as a 4 of. Next up, we have 4 copies of an amazing support card for Rezael, and that is Knight of Bowstreaks Nilberis. Grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base, auto when placed on rearguard circle by your grade 3 or greater Vanguard's ability, he'll get 10,000 power for the turn. So unfortunately, he has to be placed specifically by the Vanguard to get the 10k, and specifically has to be a grade 3 or greater Vanguard. So if you try to superior call him off of Sentinel, even when you ride to grade 3 Rezael, that won't work because it wasn't placed by the Vanguard's ability, it was placed by the unit in your soul's ability. But still, being able to give this thing plus 10,000 power is great. And the second ability is Auto Rear Guard. At the end of the battle, this unit attacks into anything. If you have a grade 3 greater Vanguard of Rezael on the card name, by energy blasting 3, shove it to soul, draw a card, check the top card, and put the top or bottom. All around, that's great because you get a free 3 energy every turn off the energy generator, so you can spend that 3 to draw a card, get an extra soul charge out of it, so therefore you have soul boss fodder, and then you get to deck stack, so you can try to increase your trigger chances for Rezael or your damage triggers for next turn if you call Nilberis at the end of the Vanguard attack, or you can bot deck the card in case it's not a trigger or it's a card you don't want to lose and instead you're going to shuffle your deck for next turn. Maybe it's the over trigger and you don't want to like damage check it, or you're not going to drive check it that turn because it's the end of the battle, so you can send it to bottom, and maybe next turn you use skills like Nobia or even Rezael's Divine skill to help shuffle the card back into your deck. All around Nilberis, very solid grade 2. Get you soul, get you deck stack to increase trigger chances, and is a 20k swing when placed by the Vanguard's ability regardless of what grade the opponent's Vanguard's at. Easy 4 of. As for our last grade 2 in the deck that isn't a part of the ride deck, we have our new Mythic, which is a fan of Rezael, and that is Mythic of Miracles, Richthofen. Grade 2, intercept 5k shield, 10k base. This glorious griffin has amazing wings, beautiful armor, and god, I love looking at it. Auto, when it's placed on rearguard circle from anywhere, by any means, counterblast 1 and check the top 7. Choose up to 1 grade 3 or greater card of Rezael and his card name from among them. Reveal it, put it to hand, shove your deck, and if you do not reveal a card, countercharge 1. I am so glad that ability has the if you do not reveal card countercharge part to it, because the amount of times I have whiffed this is like not bad, but it's like 50-50. Like there are times where I will hit a Rezael and there are times where I won't. So being able just to shuffle for no reason is good. And if you do end up hitting a Rezael off it, well, hopefully it's Vita, but if it's not Vita, at least it gets you a Rezael for the cost of Vita skill. So all around, very solid grade 2 to have for the ability to search your Rezaels. That also procs regardless of a grade either player is at. So it either guaranteed searches you persona, but it possibly searches you cost for Vita. And the second skill is Auto Rearguard. When it attacks into anything, if your Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater of Rezael in the card name, it gets 5,000 power for the battle. And if it was placed on rearguard circle by the ability of your grade 3 or greater Vanguard of Rezael in the card name, your damage on its 4 more cards in it. This unit gets 10,000 instead of 5,000. And if it did get 10,000, and it's just the 5th battle of that turn specifically, your opponent cannot call Sentinels from hand to guard circles into battle. So it's pretty much supposed to be the final finisher along with Gabwellius. Gabwellius is supposed to bring in big numbers with drive check pressure, and then Richthofen is supposed to be that extra unit that gains power from the drive check pressure, while also being able to guarantee your opponent can't stop it in case they put everything on stopping Gabwellius without using a PG. Richthofen is a very solid grade 2. It searches your deck for Rezael and either gets you a Rezael 2-hand or it basically just shuffles your deck for free. Guaranteedly, as long as your Vanguard's Rezael, it's always going to be a 15k swing, but if it was placed by the Vanguard's ability, it's a 20k swing with also the potential to nullify Sentinels and basically be a big endgame beat stick. Not a bad grade 2 at all to have in the deck, really amazing pressure, and I do like having it here. And one of my favorite combos to do is call it and Gabwellius out with Rezael Vita, then use Gabwellius to send the top card of the deck to the bottom to give Gabwellius 5,000 power, and then use Richthofen skill to shuffle the deck and hopefully either get a Rezael out or just at the very least try to increase my trigger chances or just give more power to my units overall, making it a solid 4 for me. As for our last grade 2 in the deck, one of in the ride deck, none in the main deck of Knight of Great Advance Sentinel. Grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base, auto enrolled upon by a grade 3 card of Rezael in the card name. You can choose up to 1 grade 2 less card from your drop zone and call it to the rearguard circle. Cool, it's a free rearguard call. It allows you to get back maybe one of your grade 1s to help bully down your opponent with like boosters, or if you need a Nobia because maybe maybe you call one down previous turn to intercept with it, and now you're going to call down Nobia again, try to get a top 3 search, or Nilberis just to have a Nilberis on board, or Rezael just to get deck thinning. Either way, it gives you a superior call target, which means you can be super aggressive during your grade 2 turn, let something die off, and then just call it right back immediately. So it's a nice one in the ride deck, and obviously you don't need it in the main deck, because the main deck units all do at least something on rear guard, while this thing doesn't have a rear guard skill, but its Vanguard skill is more than good enough to have it in here. As for our grade 3s, we start off with 2 copies of Blessed Dragon Gabwellius. Grade 3, change that personality 13k base. Auto and placed on rear guard circle. By soul blasting 1, you get to check the top card of your deck and put it to top or bottom. If you put it on bottom at 5000 power. Obviously, if you see a trigger, you want to leave it on top, and if you don't, you put it on bottom. But again, there are certain plays in this deck where you can choose to shuffle the deck, so you're going to send the card to bottom anyways to try to increase your trigger chances, since you're going to be deck thinning and at the very least shuffling the deck. So like again, I'll call Rezael and Gabwellius together off of Rezael Vita's skill, and then their abilities will simultaneously proc, so I'll use Gabwellius to bot deck a card and then Rezael to shuffle, therefore I can increase my trigger chances. As for the second skill, auto rear guard, when this unit attacks into anything, if your damage one has 4 more cards in it, until end of battle this unit gets 5000 power, and if it was placed on rear guard circle by the ability of your Vanguard, faded one in its card name this turn, and no drag checks performed for the battle of your rear guard to attack this turn, whether by its own ability or by things like the over trigger, you can then choose to counterblast one and he'll get 10k and lose a drive instead of 5000 power, but he'll also be able to perform drag checks for the battle. Guaranteedly, as long as you have 4 more damage like Rezael, he'll gain the 18k base, 23k base if you end up using his first skill, but then if he was placed by the Vanguard's ability that turn and you have not done drive checks yet, counterblast one, he'll be at the 23, 33, 30, 28k swinger and still be able to perform drag checks. The only downside is to get the 10k, you have to not have performed drag checks for rear guards, so it can be a little bit detrimental to you in terms of numbers, but still all around really great for pressure, good for adding possible drive checks, and a really good combo card with Nilberis, because you can say, for example, see a critical trigger in your Vanguard's drive check while you have Nilberis and Gabwellius on board, give the all effects to Nilberis, swing with Nilberis, and then you check the top card of your deck to try to increase your chance of seeing another crit, so Gabwellius is also swinging for lethal. Very solid grade 3 to have. Normally people run like this at 3-up or 4-up to increase the chance of seeing it, but I see it often enough to be a 2-up, especially because Gabwellius is mainly just supposed to be a finisher in this deck, so I like having it as a 2-up as not to take away from other solids in the deck. But if you want to up this to 3-up, maybe get rid of either a Nobia or Rezael just to increase the copies. As for our other grade 3s, 4 copies all in the main deck of Mythic of Miracles, Rezael Vita. Most people put Rezael in the ride deck with this one. Some people do prefer using OG like I do. The reason I put Vita in the main deck at all copies is because there will be times where you need to Divine Skill on first grade 3 turn, unless you're running a very specific lineup or get really lucky with Vanesta. You are not going to be able to Divine Skill on first grade 3 turn, so I'd rather have the guarantee in case I really do need it compared to the, well, I guess I'm screwed then. So Rezael Vita, grade 3 to 9% 13k base, continues Vanguard Circle. It's also regarded as Faded One of Miracles Rezael, and during your turn, this unit gets 5000 power for each Faded One of Miracles Rezael in your soul, and all of their Divine Skills. Pretty much, it can Persona Ride off of Rezael, and vice versa, so if you wanted to ride the old Rezael on top of this, it would proc off Persona Ride. It gets 5 copies for each of the original and soul, and it will gain the Divine Skills, and then auto Vanguard, when it attacks into a Vanguard, by counterblasting 1, you have to 2 cards from your drop zone with different grades, and a total grade of less than or equal to the number of cards your damage zone call into rear guard circle. So if you have 5 damage, call a grade 3 into grade 2, you can't call 2 grade 2s or 2 grade 1s, you have to call 2 cards with different grades, and then by putting a grade 3 or greater card of Rezael on this card from your hand to soul, obviously you want to put OG Rezael into soul, but if you have to put a Vita into soul, it's not the end of the world because it still procs off the ability. Choose a grade 3 less card from your drop zone, call to rear guard circle, then your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater, all units call by this effect to get plus 5000 power for the turn. So in this deck, that ability will always go off when your opponent's at grade 3, because again, you're not going to be riding this till your second grade 3 turn, so your opponent will guaranteedly be at grade 3. So being able to get 3 units out for a CB1 and a free soul card is great, not to mention the fact that everyone will get 5000 power, and you will always have at least one Faded One of Miracles Rezael and soul, so this will be an 18k base. That same grade 3 turn, probably 28k base. If you end up putting another OG Rezael into soul, 33k base, and if you got really lucky with Vanesta, like I did one time, 38k base without boosters on your second grade 3 turn, or triggers for that matter. All around, very solid grade 3. Has a lot of offensive pressure behind him, allows him to remake a board in a heartbeat, and gets a lot of just base power to himself, which the old Rezael lacked for each copy of the OG and soul, and basically gives you a total of 7 or 8 free Persona Rides, maxing out the Persona Ride count you can have in this deck, making it easy 4 of in the main deck for me. As for our last card in the deck, it's obviously a card we have to have in most copies we can. hand. So 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the right deck. A faded one of Miracles, Rezael. Grade 3, change up person right, 13k base. Auto Vanguard, when it attacks, counterboss 1, you choose up to 2 cards from your drop zone with different grades, and a total grade of less than or equal to the number of cards you damage on call to rearguard circle. So literally the same first part of Rezael's second effect, where it just calls 2 units of different grades. As for the Divine skill, the important part, by Soul Blasting 1 as an active Vanguard ability, you return all critical triggers from the drop zone to the deck and shuffle it, and this unit will get a drive for the turn. Then until the end of this fight, you cannot ride units without Rezael on their card name, but you, the player, get when your damage check reveals a trigger unit other than a heal trigger. If your damage zone has 5 or more cards in it, choose a card from your damage zone and heal it, and you lose this ability. You can only use a Divine skill a total of once per fight among all your cards. For your 6 damage check, it turns every single damage trigger into a heal trigger, which is incredible because it gives you a better chance of living, not to mention the fact that it returns all criticals back to your deck, so you can try to mulligan for these to guard attacks really early, and then it also allows you to, sack them again to have extra crit pressure, but also for that turn, it gives it a drive, which means you have an increased chance of trying to win against your opponent on that turn. You can use that ability offensively and try to finish off your opponent with Vita, or you can use it defensively and just use it on your first grade 3 turn if you're in the pickle of possibly losing on the next turn to try to survive, which again is why I like to have OG Rezael in the ride deck, because just in case you do have to use the Divine skill on your first grade 3 turn, you can afford to. Typically, you do like to wait to your second grade 3 turn, but if you feel in danger, you're more than welcome to use that ability instead of possibly being locked to not using it until your second grade 3 turn. All-around Rezael is very good because no matter which Rezael you're on, you're getting the still superior call of a CB and getting 2 rear guards out of it, but also depending on which one you're on, you're either getting a Divine skill with triple drive and crit pressure that could keep you alive, or you're also getting more power out of it as well. Anyway though, it makes for a very solid grade 3 to have in the deck, and obviously it's here to support Vita, but also itself being alternate persona ride, so 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck. And without further ado, that's it for this one. Hope all of you guys enjoyed. Honestly, this deck is very fun to play. I also like how Vita fits really well in the background here, but I like being able to have a bunch of grade 2s that I can just aggro with on early game 2 and then be able to call back with the Sentinel. I like being able to be on either Rezael and pretty much have the same benefit regardless. Gabwellius is a really great finisher and combo with Richthofen, and same with Nilberis, and ultimately the fact that all the grade 1s support the deck really well with additional power and also getting resources back into the deck. So without further ado, I'm going to spend here. I hope all of you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join us for Twitch. I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to set up your Vanguards.